The morning sun barely peeked through the clouds as Maria Rodriguez gently shook her sleeping daughter awake. 5 more minutes, Mommy, little Sophia mumbled, curling up tighter in their makeshift bed, a collection of blankets carefully arranged in the back of their old minivan. Maria smiled softly, running her fingers through her daughter's tangled hair. They had parked in the same spot for the past 3 weeks, behind an abandoned warehouse where other homeless families had created an unofficial community. The clock on her old flip phone showed 6:15 a.m. They needed to get moving before the morning traffic started and the local businesses began opening their doors. Maria had learned the rhythm of the streets over the past 8 months, when to move, where to go, and most importantly, how to keep her 4-year-old daughter safe in a world that had become increasingly unfamiliar to them both. "Come on, mi amor," she whispered, pulling out their last clean outfit from a plastic storage bin. "Let's get ready for the day." Sophia rubbed her eyes and sat up, her small face brightening as her mother handed her the strawberry-flavored toothpaste, a small luxury Maria had splurged on at the dollar store last week. It was these tiny moments of normalcy that she fought to maintain, believing they were crucial for her daughter's sense of stability. Their morning routine had become a well-choreographed dance. First, they'd walk 2 blocks to the gas station where Mr. Chen, the kind-hearted owner, would let them use the bathroom before the morning rush. He'd often slip Sophia a banana or a granola bar, pretending to find them extra in his inventory. Maria would wash their faces, brush their teeth, and change their clothes, all while telling Sophia stories about the princesses who also had to get ready for their important days. Today was different, though. Maria could feel it in her bones as she pulled her daughter's hair into 2 neat braids. Their food supplies had dwindled to almost nothing, and the few dollars she had saved were barely enough for their next meal. She had been a housekeeper for 7 years, maintaining spotless homes for wealthy families in the suburbs. Now, those same skills couldn't help her feed her daughter or keep a roof over their heads. The economic downturn had hit like a tornado, sweeping away jobs, homes, and dreams in its path. First, her hours were cut. Then, one by one, her elderly clients had to let her go, unable to afford help anymore. The rent increased, her savings disappeared, and eventually, the eviction notice came. Maria had always been proud, had never asked for handouts, but now she found herself facing a reality she never imagined possible. As they walked toward their usual spot downtown, Sophia skipped alongside her, humming a tune from her favorite cartoon. The old stroller they'd found at a church donation center squeaked with every step, carrying their essential belongings, a few changes of clothes, some toys for Sophia, and Maria's most precious possession, a worn leather-bound songbook her grandmother had given her. Music had always been part of Maria's life. Her grandmother had been a singer in Mexico, performing at local festivals and family gatherings. She had taught Maria the old songs, the ones that told stories of love, loss, and hope. Now, those same songs would become their lifeline. They reached their corner just as the morning commuters began filling the sidewalks. Maria positioned Sophia's stroller carefully under the shade of a young tree, making sure her daughter had her favorite stuffed rabbit and some paper to draw on. Then she took out her songbook, closed her eyes for a moment, and began to sing. Her voice, clear and strong, carried over the street noise. It was a song about better days ahead, about the sun breaking through storm clouds. Some hurried past, eyes glued to their phones. Others slowed their pace, touched by the sincerity in her voice and the sight of the little girl who looked up at her mother with such pride. A businessman dropped a $5 bill in her cup, nodding respectfully. An elderly woman stopped to give Sophia a packaged muffin from her grocery bag. Small acts of kindness that reminded Maria that even in their darkest moments, humanity still shined through. By mid-morning, Sophia had dozed off in her stroller, lulled to sleep by her mother's songs and the gentle spring breeze. Maria watched her daughter's peaceful face as she sang, her heart both heavy and hopeful. She remembered how just last year, they had lived in a small but cozy 1-bedroom apartment. Sophia had her own bed with rainbow sheets, and their refrigerator was always stocked. Now, their world had shrunk to what could fit in a stroller and the back of a van. Yet Maria refused to let despair win. Each coin that clinked in her cup was a step toward their future. Each song she sang was a prayer for better days. She had promised Sophia that this was temporary, that they would have a home again. And Maria Rodriguez kept her promises, no matter how hard the path might be. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, more people gathered to listen. Maria's voice grew stronger, fueled by determination and love for her sleeping child. She didn't know it yet, but this ordinary morning would become extraordinary. Sometimes life's biggest changes come when we least expect them, wrapped in moments that seem just like any other. The afternoon sun beat down on the busy street corner as Maria counted the morning's earnings, $6.35. Her throat felt dry from hours of singing, but she managed to smile as Sophia showed her a colorful drawing made with the crayons a kind stranger had given her earlier that day. It was meant to be the two of them, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun, standing next to what Sophia called their future house. "That's beautiful, mi cielo," Maria said, carefully folding the drawing and tucking it into their special memory folder. She had started this collection when they first became homeless, saving every piece of art Sophia created. Someday, she thought, they would hang these in their new home, a reminder of how far they had come. It was nearly lunchtime, and Sophia's small tummy had started to rumble. Maria reached into their bag and pulled out their last granola bar, breaking it in half. "Here, mi amor, eat this while we walk to the shelter." Sophia looked at the small piece, then at her mother's empty hands. "Aren't you hungry, Mommy?" Maria's own stomach cramped with hunger, but she shook her head with a reassuring smile. "I had a big breakfast, remember?" It was a small lie she told often these days. The truth was, she hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch, saving every morsel of food for Sophia. A mother's love meant making sure your child never felt the full weight of their circumstances. They walked 3 blocks to the local shelter where free lunch was served daily. Maria had discovered this place through another homeless mother, and it had become a crucial part of their survival strategy. The shelter staff knew them now, especially Mrs. Thompson, an elderly volunteer who always made sure Sophia got extra vegetables, claiming they would help her grow as tall as the sky. While Sophia ate her lunch of warm soup and sandwich, Maria spoke with the shelter's preschool coordinator. They had a program for homeless children, providing education and care during the day while parents looked for work or, in Maria's case, earned what they could on the streets. It wasn't easy leaving Sophia there at first, but Maria knew education was her daughter's ticket to a better future. "She's doing very well," the coordinator shared, showing Maria Sophia's latest artwork. "She's already learning to write her numbers, and her English is improving every day." Pride swelled in Maria's chest. Despite everything, her daughter was thriving, adapting, learning. It was moments like these that gave her strength to keep going. After lunch, they had their weekly ritual, laundry day. Maria had saved exactly $7 for this purpose, carefully preserved from yesterday's earnings. They walked to the laundromat 6 blocks away, where Sophia loved watching the clothes spin in the big machines. The owner, a quiet woman with kind eyes, sometimes slipped them extra detergent packets when no one was looking. As their clothes tumbled in the washer, Maria helped Sophia practice her ABCs. They made a game of it, finding letters in the advertisements plastered on the laundromat walls. Education had always been important to Maria. Back in their apartment, she had covered the walls with educational posters. Now she turned their surroundings into learning opportunities, determined that their circumstances wouldn't hold back her daughter's development. Evening approached, and they needed to find a safe spot to sleep. Their old van had finally broken down beyond repair last week, forcing them to seek alternatives. Maria had discovered that the back entrance of the public library stayed relatively warm thanks to the heating vents, and the security guard, a father himself, would look the other way if they settled there after closing. Before settling down for the night, Maria always made sure Sophia had a proper dinner. Today, she used their remaining $3 to buy a hot dog from a street vendor who recognized them and quietly added extra toppings. Maria ate the small piece Sophia insisted on sharing with her, pretending it was more than enough. As they prepared for bed, Maria pulled out their toothbrushes. Dental hygiene was non-negotiable, no matter their circumstances. She had learned to make their travel-sized toothpaste last week's by using just a tiny amount each time. These small routines helped maintain a sense of normalcy, a connection to their past life. Sophia snuggled into their blankets, clutching her treasured stuffed rabbit. "Tell me a story, Mummy," she whispered, a nightly request that Maria never refused, no matter how exhausted she felt. Tonight's story was about a brave little girl and her mother, who were actually secret princesses working undercover to help others. Sophia loved these stories, never realizing they were Maria's way of helping her cope with their situation. As her daughter drifted off to sleep, Maria stayed awake, planning for tomorrow. She needed to find a way to earn more. Sophia's shoes were wearing thin, and winter wasn't far away. Perhaps she could try singing at a different location, or maybe learn some new songs that would appeal to different audiences. The streetlights cast long shadows as Maria finally allowed herself to feel the day's exhaustion. Her back ached from standing for hours, and hunger gnawed at her stomach, but her determination remained unshaken. Tomorrow would be another day of sacrifice, another day of putting on a brave face, another day of making sure Sophia's childhood wasn't completely lost to their circumstances. Just before closing her eyes, Maria whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for Sophia. "Let her stay strong, stay innocent, stay hopeful," she murmured, pulling her daughter closer. In the distance, sirens wailed and city life continued its endless rhythm, but in their small corner, wrapped in love and determination, mother and daughter found their peace. The autumn wind whistled through the city streets, carrying fallen leaves in tiny whirlwinds around Maria's feet. It was getting darker earlier now, and the evening chill had already settled in. She pulled Sophia's worn jacket closer around her sleeping daughter, tucking an extra blanket around her in the stroller. The street lamps had just flickered on, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Today had been harder than most. The morning crowd had been sparse, distracted by the news of upcoming layoffs at the nearby tech company. By mid-afternoon, Maria's voice had grown hoarse from singing, her throat raw from the cold air. Still, she continued, each psalm carrying hope for a better tomorrow. Cielito Lindo had always been her grandmother's favorite song. As Maria began its familiar melody, memories of warm kitchen nights and family gatherings flooded back. Her grandmother would sing it while making tortillas, telling young Maria that this song had the power to turn sadness into joy. Now, standing on this cold street corner, Maria poured all of those memories, all of her own dreams for Sophia, into each word. Can't no laws. Her voice soared above the evening traffic, clear and strong despite her exhaustion. A few regular passers-by had stopped to listen, including the kind baker who often saved date-old bread for them. Even Sophia stirred slightly in her sleep, a small smile playing on her lips as her mother's voice carried through the chilly air. That's when she noticed it, a black Mercedes slowly pulling up to the curb. Maria's heart skipped a beat, but she kept singing. She'd learned to be cautious of unexpected attention, especially as evening approached. The car's windows were tinted, making it impossible to see who was inside. Still, something felt different about this moment. The song ended, and Maria began another, her grandmother's second favorite, a ballad about never losing faith. The Mercedes remained parked, its engine humming quietly. Other cars honked as they passed, annoyed at the luxury vehicle taking up space near the curb, but it didn't move. Through the gathering darkness, Maria could see other street performers beginning to pack up for the night. The hot dog vendor was closing his stand, and the newspaper seller had already gone. Usually, this would be her signal to find a safer spot for the night, but something kept her rooted to this spot, her voice carrying the ancient songs into the evening air. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the driver's door opened. Maria instinctively stepped closer to Sophia's stroller, one hand resting protectively on the handle. But as the figure emerged from the car, Maria's tension eased slightly. It was a woman, probably in her 50s, dressed in an elegant business suit that spoke of success, but wearing a warm smile that spoke of understanding. The woman stood quietly, listening as Maria finished her song. There was something in her eyes, not pity, which Maria had grown used to seeing, but something deeper, like recognition. When the last note faded into the city noise, the woman approached slowly, respect evident in every step. Sophia chose that moment to wake up, rubbing her eyes and looking curiously at the stranger. The woman's face softened even more at the sight of the little girl. She waited patiently as Maria helped Sophia sit up and straighten her jacket, showing a mother's understanding of these small but important moments. "Your voice, the woman finally said, her own accent hinting at a similar background to Maria's. "It reminds me of my mother's. She used to sing these same songs." There was a catch in her voice, a hint of emotion that made Maria realize this wasn't just another passing interaction. The evening traffic continued to flow around them, but somehow their corner had become a quiet bubble in the chaos of city life. The woman glanced at Sophia, who was now fully awake and watching the interaction with curious eyes, then back at Maria. There was a moment of silent understanding between them, the recognition of shared experiences, of hardships faced, of dreams deferred but not abandoned. "I've been driving past this corner for weeks," the woman continued, her voice warm and genuine. "Always in a hurry, always rushing to the next meeting. But today, I finally stopped to listen." She paused, seeming to choose her next words carefully. "And I'm so glad I did." Maria stood quietly, one hand still resting on Sophia's stroller, the other clutching her grandmother's songbook. The city lights reflected off the Mercedes' polished surface, creating a surreal glow around them. In this moment, anything seemed possible, even miracles. As the woman began to speak again, Maria could sense that their lives were about to change. Sometimes the biggest transformations come not with grand announcements or flashing lights, but in quiet moments on ordinary street corners, when one person decides to stop and truly see another. The evening had grown colder, but Maria didn't feel the chill anymore. Sophia reached out and touched her mother's hand, a small gesture of comfort they often shared. In the background, the city continued its endless symphony of sounds: car horns, distant sirens, the rumble of the subway below, but on their corner, time seemed to stand still, waiting for what would happen next. The woman from the Mercedes introduced herself as Isabella Martinez, her voice carrying warmth that seemed to push back the evening chill. "Would you mind if we talked for a bit?" she asked, gesturing to a nearby bench. Maria hesitated for just a moment before nodding, carefully pushing Sophia's stroller to the spot where they could sit. Isabella reached into her car first, returning with a paper bag from a local bakery. "I thought you both might be hungry," she said simply, without a trace of pity in her voice. Sophia's eyes lit up at the sight of fresh pastries, looking to her mother for permission. Maria nodded, watching as her daughter carefully selected a warm cheese Danish. "You have her grandmother's voice," Isabella said softly, watching Maria help Sophia with the pastry. "My mother used to sing those same songs in our kitchen back in Mexico City." She paused, her eyes distant with memories. "Life has a strange way of bringing people together, doesn't it? 20 years ago, I was standing on a street corner not too different from this one." Maria looked up, surprised. Isabella's designer suit and Mercedes painted a picture so different from their current reality that it seemed impossible to imagine her struggling. As if reading her thoughts, Isabella smiled. "Hard to believe, isn't it? But yes, I had my own little girl then, and we were just as lost as you seem to be now." The traffic light changed nearby, sending a fresh wave of cars past their quiet corner. Sophia had dozed off again, the half-eaten Danish still clutched in her small hand. Isabella continued, her voice taking on a gentle, storytelling quality that made Maria lean in slightly to listen. "We had come to America with such big dreams," Isabella shared, adjusting her scarf against the wind. "My husband had a good job lined up, or so we thought. But when we arrived, we discovered it was all a scam. He couldn't handle the shame and left us one night. Just disappeared." She took a deep breath, the memory still carrying weight after all these years. Maria found herself nodding, understanding the sudden upheaval of a life turned upside down. Her own story wasn't so different: the economic crash, the lost jobs, the mounting bills, all leading to this corner with her songs and her daughter. "But then something happened," Isabella continued, her eyes brightening. "I was doing odd jobs, cleaning houses, anything to feed my daughter. One day, while waiting for the bus, I was singing to keep my spirits up, just like you. A woman stopped to listen. She owned a small Mexican restaurant and offered me a job as a dishwasher." Sophia stirred in her sleep, and Maria automatically reached to adjust her blanket. Isabella watched the gesture with understanding eyes. "That woman gave me more than a job," she said. "She gave me a chance to prove myself. Within a year, I was managing the restaurant. In 5 years, I had saved enough to open my own small place. Now," she gestured to her car, "I own a chain of restaurants across the city." The streetlights cast a warm glow over their bench as Isabella reached into her purse, pulling out a business card. "Success stories aren't just things that happen to other people," she said firmly. "Sometimes they're waiting right around the corner. We just need someone to believe in us when we're struggling to believe in ourselves." Maria held the card carefully, reading the elegant script that identified Isabella as the owner of Casa Martinez restaurants. She had seen these establishments before, always busy, always welcoming, known for their authentic food and live music. "Your voice," Isabella said, leaning forward slightly, "it has something special. The same thing my mother always said makes a good meal great heart. In business, we call it authenticity. In life, we call it truth." She paused, making sure Maria was following her words. "I've been looking for someone to help bring real culture, real music to my restaurants. But more than that, I've been waiting to pass on the kindness that was once shown to me." The city sounds seemed to fade as Isabella laid out her proposal. It wasn't charity, she made that clear. It was an opportunity, one that would require hard work and dedication. But it came with support, with understanding, with a chance to build a real future. As they talked, Maria felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not the desperate kind that helped her get through each day, but real, solid hope that had plans and possibilities behind it. Sophia slept peacefully beside them, unaware that her mother's songs had finally reached the right ears at the right moment. The evening grew deeper around them, but neither woman noticed the time passing. They were too busy building bridges between past and future, between struggle and success, between despair and dreams. Sometimes life's greatest gifts come wrapped in the simplest packages: a conversation on a bench, a shared pastry, a memory of songs that carried through generations. As they finally stood to leave, Isabella placed a gentle hand on Maria's shoulder. 20 years ago, someone believed in me," she said softly. "Today, I believe in you. Sometimes that's all we need to begin again." The city lights twinkled above them like stars, witnesses to a moment when life decided to turn a new page. The next morning dawned with a different kind of promise. Maria stood outside Casa Martinez's flagship restaurant, Sophia's small hand wrapped tightly in hers. The early sunlight caught the golden letters on the window, making them shimmer. Inside, she could see staff preparing for the day, their movements quick and purposeful. Isabella had asked them to come before the restaurant opened, wanting to show them around when things were quiet. As they waited, Maria smoothed Sophia's hand nervously. They were wearing their cleanest clothes, which Isabella had insisted was perfectly fine. "We're not here to judge appearances," she had said the night before. "We're here to build futures." The door opened, and Isabella welcomed them with a warm smile, the same genuine warmth she'd shown on the street corner. The restaurant smelled of fresh bread and coffee, making Sophia's eyes widen with delight. "First things first," Isabella said, leading them to a cozy booth. "Breakfast is important when starting a new chapter." As they ate warm pan dulce and eggs, Isabella laid out her proposal in detail. It wasn't just a job she was offering, it was a complete fresh start. "The position is for a hostess who can also perform," she explained, pushing a folder across the table. "You'll greet guests, help manage reservations, and sing 3 sets during dinner service." Maria opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside was an employment contract offering not just a steady salary, but health insurance and other benefits she hadn't had in years. But Isabella wasn't finished. "There's more," she said, pulling out another set of papers. "I've arranged temporary housing in the apartment building my cousin manages. It's small but clean and safe, just 3 blocks from here." Sophia, who had been quietly coloring with crayons provided by one of the kitchen staff, looked up at the word apartment with bright eyes. "Will I have my own bed, Mummy?" she asked hopefully. Isabella smiled, reaching into her bag. "Actually, I have some pictures to show you both." The photos showed a modest but well-maintained 1-bedroom apartment. There was a small kitchen with working appliances, a bathroom with a real tub, and most importantly, space for them to live and breathe and dream again. "It's furnished with the basics," Isabella explained. "You can make it your own over time." Maria felt tears welling up but held them back. This wasn't charity. Isabella had made that clear. The apartment's rent would be deducted from her salary at a fair rate, and she would be expected to work hard and prove herself. But it was something even more valuable than charity. It was respect, understanding, and a real chance. There's something else, Isabella continued, her voice gentle but businesslike. I've arranged for Sophia to attend the daycare center next door to the restaurant. Many of our staff's children go there. She slid another brochure across the table. They have an excellent early education program, and being so close, you can check on her during your breaks. As they toured the restaurant, Isabella introduced them to the staff. There was Mrs. Ortiz, the head chef, who immediately started teaching Sophia how to fold napkins into swans. Mr. Chen, the kitchen manager, shared stories of how Isabella had given him his start 15 years ago. Each person they met had their own story of how Casa Martinez had become more than just a workplace. This is where you'll sing, Isabella said, showing them a small stage area near the bar. We've had local musicians perform here before, but I've been waiting for someone special, someone who understands that music isn't just entertainment, it's soul. They visited the apartment next. Sophia ran from room to room, her excitement filling the space with joy. The bedroom had a small alcove that would be perfect for Sophia's bed, giving them both a sense of space. The kitchen window looked out over a small community garden, and Maria could already imagine growing herbs there, just like her grandmother had taught her. Back at the restaurant, Isabella shared one final piece of her plan. I know transition isn't easy, she said, pulling out an envelope. This is an advance on your first month's salary. Use it for whatever you need. Clothes for work, supplies for Sophia, anything to help you get started. Maria began to protest, but Isabella held up her hand. This isn't a gift. You'll earn it back through your work. But I believe in investing in people who are willing to invest in themselves. 20 years ago, someone did the same for me. As they finalized the details, Isabella's phone buzzed with messages about business meetings and supplier issues, but she ignored them all. The most important investment we can make is in each other, she said, watching Sophia arrange her crayons in rainbow order. Everything else can wait. Before they left, Isabella had one more surprise. She handed Maria a small notebook. For your songs, she explained. I want you to start writing down your story, your music. Someday, it might inspire someone else who needs hope. Standing outside the restaurant later, holding their folder of paperwork and promises, Maria felt lightheaded with possibility. Sophia tugged at her hand, pointing at their reflection in the restaurant window. Look, Mommy, she said excitedly. We're different already. And they were. Though they were wearing the same clothes, standing on the same streets they'd known for months, everything had changed. Sometimes opportunity doesn't just knock. It opens the door and shows you exactly where to step to begin your new journey. The first rays of morning sunlight streamed through real curtains, simple white ones that Sophia had picked out herself. Maria stood in their small kitchen, making breakfast on a real stove, still amazed by how much had changed in just 3 months. The smell of fresh coffee filled their apartment, mixing with the scent of toasting bread and scrambled eggs. Mummy, have you seen my blue hair ribbon? Sophia called from their bedroom. Maria smiled, remembering how her daughter used to keep all her possessions in a single small bag. Now she had a drawer full of colorful ribbons, each one carefully chosen from the store where they now shopped regularly. Their apartment, though modest, had become a real home. Sophia's drawings covered the refrigerator, held up by bright magnets shaped like butterflies. A small bookshelf in the corner held both their growing collection, storybooks for Sophia, business management texts for Maria. The walls, once bare, now displayed framed photos of their new life, including one of Sophia's first day at her new preschool. Maria checked the clock. They had plenty of time before heading to Casa Martinez. Gone were the days of rushing to find safe places to wash up or hunting for their next meal. Their mornings now had a comfortable rhythm. Breakfast together, walking Sophia to daycare, then preparing the restaurant for another day of service. At work, Maria had surprised even herself with how quickly she'd adapted. Isabella's faith in her had been well placed. She managed the host station with natural grace, switching effortlessly between English and Spanish as needed. Regular customers began asking specifically about when she would be singing, and the restaurant had seen a noticeable increase in evening bookings. Your voice brings something special to this place, Mrs. Ortiz, the head chef, had told her one evening. It reminds people of home, of family, of all the good things in life. The kitchen staff would often pause their work to listen when she sang, and even the busiest nights seemed calmer when her music filled the air. Sophia was thriving too. Her preschool teachers reported that she was quick to learn and make friends. She had grown 2 inches and gained healthy weight, her cheeks now rounded with proper nutrition. Every afternoon, she would sit at one of the restaurant's back tables, doing her homework and chatting with the staff who had all become like family. The changes weren't just external. Maria had enrolled in evening business classes at the local community center, studying after Sophia went to bed. Isabella had encouraged this, sharing books and insights from her own journey. Knowledge, she would say, is the one thing nobody can take away from you. Their new apartment had a small balcony where Maria had started a tiny herb garden, just like her grandmother's. She would water the plants each morning, remembering the streets where they used to sleep. The memory didn't bring pain anymore. Instead, it fueled her determination to keep moving forward. One particularly busy Saturday evening, Maria overheard a customer asking Isabella about the wonderful singer. Isabella's response had made her tear up. "She's not just our singer, she's proof that talent and determination can overcome any obstacle when given a chance to shine." The restaurant had become more than a workplace. Regular customers brought small gifts for Sophia: books, hair ribbons, once even a tiny charm bracelet. Maria saved every tip she earned, creating 2 funds, one for emergencies and one for Sophia's future education. The mere ability to plan for the future felt like a miracle. Even their apartment building had embraced them. The elderly couple next door often invited Sophia over to bake cookies, and the Young family down the hall shared hand-me-down clothes that their daughters had outgrown. This sense of community, of belonging, was something Maria hadn't realized how much they'd missed. The business classes were challenging, but Maria approached them with the same determination that had kept them going on the streets. She learned about profit margins, customer service, and management techniques. Sometimes she would practice her new knowledge by helping Isabella with the restaurant's books, learning the business from the ground up. "You have a natural instinct for this," Isabella had said one evening, watching Maria organize the weekend scheduling. "You understand that a business is really about people, their needs, their comfort, their joy." Sophia had started taking piano lessons, offered free by one of the regular customers who taught music. Watching her daughter's small fingers move across the keys, Maria often thought about how life could change so completely. The same hands that once clutched at donated food now created music of their own. Their weekly routine included Sunday dinners with Isabella's family, where Sophia played with Isabella's grandchildren while the adults discussed business and life. These gatherings reminded Maria of her own family celebrations back home, and slowly the ache of those memories was being replaced by the warmth of new ones. One night, after a particularly successful evening where her singing had drawn a standing ovation, Maria stood in their apartment, looking out at the city lights. Sophia was asleep in her own bed, surrounded by her stuffed animals and books. The contrast between their past and present lives sometimes felt surreal, but the warmth of their home, the stability of their new life, was wonderfully real. On their small kitchen table lay her notebook, now filled with songs, both old ones from her grandmother and new ones she'd written about their journey. These songs told the story of hope, of perseverance, and of the power of kindness to change lives. Each evening, as her voice filled the restaurant, she wasn't just singing, she was sharing their story, inspiring others who might be where she once was. 1 year had passed since that fateful evening when Isabella's Mercedes had stopped at their street corner. Today, Casa Martinez was filled with colorful balloons and excited chatter as guests gathered to celebrate Sophia's 5th birthday. The restaurant had closed early for this special occasion, transforming from an elegant dining establishment into a warm, festive space filled with love and laughter.